Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive, bringing you guys another Pokemon Masters video today. Today we're talking about the best Techt Sync Pairs in Pokemon Masters up to this point, and I hope you guys are excited. I did a video similar to this on the best support Sync Pairs. I'm going to change up the format just a little bit here. We're going to break down the best 5 Techt Sync Pairs this time. Be sure to hit that like button down below if you're enjoying Pokemon Masters. Let me know what your favorite Techt Sync Pair is so far in the game. Now, before we jump into that, I gotta show you guys, I've been grinding this game up. Like I said, I've been having so much fun with it. You can see I got blue. I know the blue event is going on. I actually haven't even done the blue event yet, but I got blue up to 100. I've got my superior there, my Beedrill's up at 90, and I've been kind of working on a bunch of different characters, just kind of messing around, trying different things. I pretty much unlocked every sync pair except for maybe 3 or 4 of them, so we're doing pretty good in terms of that. So I've been having a lot of fun with this game. But let's talk about sync pairs. Currently in the metagame right now, I think the focus, if there is a metagame, is really on strikers and supports. Generally, people are running 1 striker, 2 supports, or 1 support and 2 strikers. I generally think the best approach is 2 supports and a striker right now. But Techt is a very unique kind of area, and I have a feeling that Techt could end up being one of the strongest of the areas with the right kind of characters being released and the right sync pairs being released in the future, because there's some really cool things you can do with it, especially if PvP comes out. I think that that's going to be the big kind of difference there. But anyway, let's take a look. I've got all the different Techt Sync Pairs kind of filtered here. We're going to talk about what I think are the best 5 so far, not in any particular order, because I do feel that it's important to look at the sync pair as a unit with the rest of the team as opposed to just by itself, because that's where they're really going to shine, because this isn't a 1v1 situation. It's a situation where you're going to have a team of 3 sync pairs working together. But the first thing we're going to talk about is Zante and Will. If you didn't see my video, I do believe that Zante and Will are probably the most broken sync pair so far. If there's a stage that I can't beat on my own for whatever reason, like a super course, I just throw Will and Zante out there and I usually can beat it pretty easily. But this thing is a monster, and we'll take a look as to why. The main thing is its passive skill is called Impervious. For those who don't know, when you get hit by a sync move, it removes all of your stat buffs. So any buffs you had, any evasiveness, speed boost, special type boost, whatever it may be, get removed. So I see a lot of people when I do co-op, they don't understand that. They go buff and then they get hit by a sync move, and it's like, there's no point in buffing if the sync move is coming. There's no point. So you're gonna want to make sure that you keep that in mind. But what Zante does, it actually can't have its stats lowered. So even if it gets hit by a sync move, its stats will not be lowered. And I talked about in a separate video how you can combine things like Misty and Starmie and Chansey and Cheryl and use those stat buffs on Zante to buff Zante up, give it insane defense boost, give it passive healing, give it special attack buffs, give it evasiveness buffs, all these different things, and those stats are not going to disappear when you get hit by a sync move, which is pretty massive. Its main attack is stored power, which takes all those stat buffs and powers up its psychic type move, which is really, really cool. And then it's got a couple other things, but the main thing is going to be our power is limitless. If your opponent starts to try to boost up on you, you can actually copy those stat boosts yourself and double them. So say your opponent goes for a plus special attack, you know, they'll get a +2 special attack, and you can actually copy that, get +4. Generally, I think Zante is best used when you're buffing it yourself, but you can always use that as an option. And then again, stored power, very, very powerful. So I think Zante just kind of on its own is just so strong because of those different opportunities there and the fact that you can kind of work all those things together. The next sync pair we're going to talk about here is actually KYOGRE and Crobat. Crobat, one of my absolute favorite Pokemon. This thing is very, very cool because it's actually got a couple things going for it. One is haste, so speed can't be lowered. So if you do try to boost its speed with X speed, that's not wasted if you get hit by a sync move, which is really nice. You've got Move Like a Shadow, which is incredible. You're going to raise your evasiveness sharply, and then you're going to also raise your critical hit rate. So 2 pretty useful kind of buffs there, specifically the evasiveness. Being able to dodge attacks, especially spread moves, can be really advantageous for something like Crobat, which generally doesn't have the best bulk in general. But its main bread and butter is going to be Poison Fang. Poison Fang is a physical attacking poison type move that has a good chance of leaving the target badly poisoned, which is toxic poisoning, which means every time they take a turn, they're going to take poison damage, and it's going to start to rack up and rack up and rack up. It's best to go after the middle Pokemon if it can be poisoned, because those are the Pokemon that generally do the most attacking. If you poison something on the sides and they don't do a ton of attacking or using moves at all, you're not going to see a huge difference there. But it's about a 50% chance, I believe, to nab that poison there, and again, that poison starts to stack. Very, very solid. And then last but not least, it gets Venoshock, which is a very powerful special type attack. but it gets doubled if they're poisoned or badly poisoned. So what you can do here is you fire off those poison fangs and then you fire off those Venoshocks, and you're hitting for base 100, which is actually pretty solid. Kind of combine that with your high crit ratio for a move like a Shadow, and you can do some serious damage with Crobat here. But again, the main thing is going to be spreading that poison around your opponent's team and ultimately putting yourself in a decent situation to whittle them down with poison. The next sync pair that I wanted to talk about that I think is kind of overlooked at this point in time is Togedemaru. I actually feel like Sophocles and Togedemaru form a pretty impressive sync pair. Its passive is going to be Endurance, which allows it to live with 1 HP left, which is actually pretty good. I know a lot of people use that with like for Alligator. So you can lead off with this thing, and if you get hit by a sync move, you'll be able to live on 1 HP, which can be really useful. It's important to understand that you have that because it can be very, very useful. The thing that makes Togedemaru really powerful is Power of Science is really good. You drastically raise your attack and speed. You drastically raise your attack and speed, and then you lower your defense. But again, don't forget you have that endurance passive scale, so it's not a huge deal. You can boost your special defense in certain situations, which is mildly useful, but the main thing here is boosting yourself up with Power of Science. The main kind of key to Togedemaru though is Nuzzle. Nuzzle is a electric type move that 100% of the time leaves the target paralyzed if they can be paralyzed, and this is where it pairs up really nicely with some other sync pairs. Pairing like Togedemaru with like Chandelure, running Hex, things that are going to double based on them being status is very, very good. So that's where Togedemaru kind of comes in handy and ends up putting in a lot of work. And then last but not least is a relatively powerful Zing Zap. When boosted by Power of Science, can actually deal some pretty good damage, and it does have a chance to make the target flinch. So you can do some serious work there with Togedemaru and Sophocles. Excuse me, gotta get my G Fuel in, man. So that's Togedemaru and Sophocles. I feel like the Nuzzle strat is really useful, so being able to kind of paralyze things can be really cool. The next thing I wanted to talk about here is one of my favorite sync pairs right now, and that is actually Masquerade and Surskit. This sync pair, you can see I have it almost maxed, and it's definitely become one of my favorites. Its passive is Terrify, similar to Salaman's, where it comes in and actually intimidates the opponent and lowers their attack. So you can switch this thing in if you're playing on co-op, but in singles it can be really good there. But its main thing is Infestation. Infestation is going to leave the target trapped and start to whittle away at their health every single turn, which is really, really cool. And then you can use Silver Wind Victory Shot. Very important to note that if you do Infestation first, you actually deal more damage with Silver Wind Victory Shot, so that's something to note. You definitely want to take advantage of that sync boost. And then Struggle Bug is really cool. It's very similar to Snarl from Houndoom, a lot of people are familiar with. You can just spam Struggle Bug and lower their special attack. So in a matchup where you're facing special attackers, Masquerade is very, very strong. And again, it does have that passive to lower their attack the first time. Otherwise, just fantastic, boosts your special defense, and it makes you gradually heal yourself, so you can kind of have quite a bit of longevity. You boost in your special defense. Struggle Bug is really good to weaken special attack. You can Infestation to chip away, and then you can X Speed to kind of boost up the move gauge for the rest of yourself and the rest of the team, essentially. I think Masquerade has a unique situation if PvP ever comes around, where if the metagame gets dominated by special attackers, I think Masquerade could be really, really effective. Being able to come in, get Just Fantastic off, heal itself up, which passive healing is incredible in this game right now. Being able to, essentially debuff special attack boosts and just lower special attack in general, and then being able to trap, especially in a co-op situation where trainers want to switch out and try to get their sync moves off and things like that. You can really put someone in a bad situation if you can trap them. I know in the main part of the game, trapping doesn't really do anything for you, but in the co-op, it actually could be really useful. So some pretty cool stuff there with Masquerade. The last thing I wanted to talk about was actually Agatha and her Gengar. I do feel like Gengar has a lot of usefulness in this, especially if you're able to get off its Z move and then, its sync move and then ultimately Mega Evolve. If the opponent is asleep, you're gonna do more damage with Tried and True Hex. So that's something to note there. Really cool. But the big thing is it does indeed have Hypnosis. Putting things to sleep is big, and if you can hit that Hypnosis, you're gonna do a lot of damage and really, really mess your opponent up. So I would definitely, I think Gengar has a lot of usefulness as a tech. Its passive keeps it from falling asleep itself, and you can see it starts off with Lick, so it originally has Lick, which can paralyze, which is kind of nice. And it's got Run Along, which raises its speed, and then it takes damage based on its maximum HP. So you're going to take some recoil, but you're able to radically boost your speed up so you can kind of get those attacks off. Lick being a 1-bar attack allows you to charge that, charge up that sync move super quick. So that's kind of where Gengar comes in, right? Like you could boost that sync move up so fast because you could fire off Lick. Hypnosis is only 2-bar, I believe. So you can do that. And then you've got Shadow Ball is a pretty powerful ghost type attack that has a chance to lower special defense. But the key to Gengar is really going to be using Lick, run along now, boost that speed up, get that move gauge moving, get those licks off, hit a Hypnosis. If you can hit those Hypnosis, it's going to be massive. I'm trying to think if there's any support that boosts accuracy, but if there's any way to boost your accuracy with Agatha, that could be really good. But otherwise, 75% ain't that bad. But again, once you Mega Evolve, your Lick turns into Hex, and then you double power if they get afflicted by a status condition. And this is what I mentioned about Chandelure earlier using Hex. You can use Gengar with Hex if you put him to sleep, or if you paralyze them with Lick, you could kind of pair those two together and do quite a bit of damage. So there's a lot of opportunities there, and that's some of the best kind of Techt Sync Pairs so far. Obviously, you can really make almost anything work in the right situation. I think there's something to be said about things like Bronzong. I feel like there's something to be said about things like Lapras, which can be really good spamming Blizzards. I do think Floatzel is another notable mention there. And I think as we see kind of more developments in terms of weather, you could see things like Pelipper and Ponyta and stuff actually put in some more work as well. So there's definitely some other sync pairs that could be useful. But ultimately, the 5 that I mentioned, Xatu, Crobat, Tokido, Masquerade, and Gengar, I do feel like are the best 5 Techt Sync Pairs to invest in. My advice at this moment in time, though, is don't really go too heavy into your sync pairs for Tech. I do think that there's going to be better Techt Sync Pairs that come out in the future, and I think we should wait for those if I'm being honest. I don't necessarily feel like any of these are worth investing into just yet. I would say grind those Tectonics, save them, grind those gym leader notes, save those, and there's going to be more characters that come out. I think a lot of people, myself included, are jumping into this game and just like, oh, let me power this up, let me power this up, let me power this up. But they're going to continue to release new sync pairs that are going to surpass the previous ones. Like Blue already, best special attacker right now. I know Meganium's coming out, or Chikorita and Meganium, and that's going to be one of the best supports. Oshawott is actually probably the best support that's going to come out, and those trump the ones that we already have. So hang in there, save those things up. I mean, ultimately it's up to you. Like, you can grind them infinitely, so I guess it's not a big deal. I've kind of been putting time into the characters that I like the most, but that's going to be my thoughts on the best Techt Sync Pairs. Hopefully this video was awesome. If you guys hit that like button down below, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.